Buddhism, one of the world's oldest and most profound spiritual traditions, offers us an inexhaustible source of wisdom and teachings that can guide us to a more balanced, empathetic, and meaningful life. These teachings have transcended cultural and religious boundaries, inspiring millions to cultivate inner peace, compassion, and respect for those around them. In this video, we'll delve into 18 invaluable lessons from Buddhism, each with the power to transform the way we relate to ourselves and others. Whether you're a practicing Buddhist or just someone seeking personal growth, these lessons provide a foundation for a more mindful and fulfilling life. We'll explore concrete steps we can take to integrate these principles into our daily lives, whether it's cultivating compassion, non-attachment, patience, or right speech. If this type of content resonates with you and you want to discover more valuable teachings, I invite you to subscribe to our channel and press the like button. This gesture helps us continue to bring quality information and create a community dedicated to exploring consciousness, spirituality, and personal development. One of the fundamental concepts of Buddhism is the practice of being present in the present moment. In the teachings of the Buddha, our suffering often stems from the tendency to get lost in the past or to project ourselves into the future, completely neglecting the present moment. This practice does not mean completely ignoring planning or avoiding reflections on the past, but rather cultivating awareness and acceptance of what we are experiencing in the present moment. Think about all the times when we have been distracted or lost sight of the beauty around us because our mind was stuck somewhere else. Whether we think about things we regret or worry about what's next, we miss the essence of life, which is, in fact, the here and now. The exercise of being present is simple but powerful. Close your eyes, breathe deeply, and feel each breath. Notice the sounds around you, and pay attention to how your body feels. This mindfulness practice helps you reconnect with yourself and anchor your mind in the present, reducing stress and increasing well-being. Every time you notice your mind running away to disturbing thoughts, remember the Buddhist lesson of living in the moment. Thus, you will find that many of our mental problems lose their intensity when we are attentive to the present, accepting impermanence or everything is changing. The concept of impermanence or anicca is fundamental to Buddhism and emphasizes that every element in the universe is in constant transformation. From the movement of the planets to the changing seasons, from the growth and decay of our physical bodies to the fluctuations of our thoughts and emotions, everything is in a continuous process of becoming and passing away. This law of change can be difficult to accept, especially in a culture where we are often encouraged to seek stability and permanence. We are tempted to cling to the pleasant moments, run away from the unpleasant moments, and try to build a safe and predictable life. In reality, however, any attempt to stop the natural flow of life creates inattention and often suffering. Basically, accepting impermanence begins with realizing that we do not have control over everything, and that it is natural to go through moments of change. This perspective helps us to look at both moments of joy and those of pain with equanimity, knowing that they are all temporary. For example, in a moment of intense joy, accepting impermanence helps us to be present with that feeling, without fearing that it will pass. Conversely, when we face a loss or challenge, accepting that this too shall pass gives us hope and inner strength to continue. A useful exercise for cultivating this attitude is the noticing change meditation. During a meditation session, notice how thoughts and sensations come and go. You will find that no thought, no emotion lasts forever. This simple exercise reminds us that everything is ephemeral and trains us to be more flexible and at peace with life's changes. In essence, accepting impermanence is not an exercise in cold detachment, but a compassionate openness to the reality that life is a continuous flow. Releasing attachments or developing a detached attitude. Attachment is a natural tendency of the human mind. We all want to keep things that bring us pleasure and avoid suffering. However, Buddhism teaches us that when we cling to certain things or people, we create our own suffering. because inevitably these things will either disappear or change, and our desire to keep them unchanged will generate an inner struggle. Letting go of attachments does not mean giving up all desires or pleasures, but rather changing our relationship with them. For example, we can love a person deeply without trying to control them or rely on them for our happiness. This type of love is a free love, in which we accept that that person has their own path and their own changes to experience. When we become excessively attached, we begin to see the person or object as an extension of ourself, and any loss or change of them deeply destabilizes us. Buddhism suggests an exercise in contemplating our attachments. Reflect on the things, ideas, or people you feel attached to and ask yourself how you would feel if they were no longer in your life. This meditation can be difficult at first, but over time, it helps us see how the fear of loss often dominates us and limits our ability to enjoy the present moment. As we free ourselves from these attachments, we become more balanced and receptive to what life offers us in the present, without imposing expectations or conditions on it. We can continue to love, work, and engage in life, but without the desperation to control or withhold what makes us happy. Letting go of attachments also allows us to see ourselves in a more authentic light, without identifying with roles, objects, or statuses. Thus we open ourselves to authentic inner freedom, a peace that does not depend on external circumstances, but on the peace found in accepting the true nature of things. The practice of compassion, or cultivating an open heart. In Buddhism, compassion is not just an occasional feeling of pity for those who suffer, but a way of living, perceiving the world and acting in it. Compassion, known in Sanskrit as karuna, is a deep desire to free all beings from suffering and to help them achieve happiness and inner peace. This is not limited to people close to us, but extends to all beings, including those who have hurt us or are our enemies. Compassion can be difficult to understand or cultivate, especially in a world where we are often taught to think primarily of ourselves and our needs. But paradoxically, compassion does not weaken us, but makes us stronger, because it opens us to an unconditional love that transcends ego and personal desires. This opening of the heart to the suffering of others does not bring us suffering, but on the contrary transforms our lives, making us feel a deep connection with everyone around us. In practicing compassion, Buddhism recommends a technique known as loving-kindness meditation. In this practice, we begin by sending thoughts of love and compassion to ourselves. Then we extend them to people close to us, to acquaintances, and gradually to all people and all beings. During meditation, we can mentally repeat simple phrases such as, "May you be happy," "May you be safe," "May you be free from suffering." This practice helps us feel authentic warmth and deep empathy for everyone around us. Compassion, thus cultivated, is not a mere emotion, but a commitment to contributing to the well-being of others. It encourages us to act with kindness and empathy, to avoid malice and judgment, and to bring a positive light into the lives of others. When faced with difficulties or conflicts, an attitude of compassion helps us to react with calm, patience, and understanding, avoiding escalating tensions and cultivating inner peace. Cultivating wisdom, seeking the truth beyond appearances. Wisdom, or prajna in Buddhism, is a deep and direct understanding of reality. Unlike intellectual knowledge, which is theoretical and can often be superficial, wisdom is an intuition of the true nature of existence, a profound awareness of the interdependence and selflessness of all phenomena. True wisdom is an ability to see things as they are, beyond illusions and preconceptions. Cultivating wisdom begins with understanding the three fundamental characteristics of existence: impermanence, selflessness, and suffering. These three characteristics describe the nature of existence and show us that things are not as they seem. Wisdom helps us to detach ourselves from the illusions that often govern our lives, such as the belief that material possessions, status, or social recognition can provide us with permanent happiness. An essential practice for developing wisdom is insight meditation, or vipassana. Through this meditation, We observe our thoughts, emotions, and bodily sensations without becoming attached to them, but rather letting them come and go. Over time, we begin to see that none of these experiences define who we truly are. We realize that our thoughts and emotions are fleeting, and that we do not need to identify with them. This introspection gives us an inner freedom as we begin to detach ourselves from the conditioning and habits of the mind. Wisdom also means living consciously, without getting caught up in the daily routines. Each moment becomes an opportunity to connect with reality and act from a state of clarity and peace. When we make decisions from the perspective of wisdom, they are more balanced, more understanding, and less dominated by impulses. Wisdom helps us overcome our fears, see the true causes of our suffering, and discover a deep sense of peace and fulfillment, regardless of external circumstances. Essentially, cultivating wisdom is not an end in itself, but a process that allows us to see life from a broader and more comprehensive perspective, freeing us from the suffering created by the illusions of the mind. Cultivating patience, overcoming anger and restlessness. Patience, known in Buddhism as kshanti, is a core virtue that helps us face challenges and difficult situations without falling prey to frustration, anger, or despair. Essentially, patience is not simply refraining from impulsive reactions, but an inner strength that allows us to remain balanced and accept the course of things, even when life becomes uncomfortable or unpredictable. Every day we are challenged by small inconveniences or frustrations, whether it is a traffic jam, a long line, or a rude person. If we respond to these situations with irritation or anger, our minds become clouded and we feel overwhelmed and exhausted. Buddhism teaches us that these reactions are a result of our attachment to personal expectations and that, in fact, we can learn to cultivate an attitude of acceptance and patience. Practicing patience provides us with an inner space of quiet in which we can observe the transient nature of our emotions and external obstacles. In Buddhism, patience is also seen as an antidote to anger, a destructive emotion that can lead to conflict and suffering for both ourselves and those around us. An effective way to develop patience is to remember that every person, including those who cause us discomfort, is facing their own struggles and suffering. This does not mean that we must accept abuse or injustice, but that we can react from a state of calm without losing our inner balance. Another important aspect of patience is the ability to endure difficulties or suffering without being consumed by the desire to escape them immediately. In a world where we are often conditioned to seek quick fixes and immediate pleasures, cultivating patience is an act of self-discipline and self-control, which allows us to find the balance between expectations and reality. Patience also helps us persevere in spiritual practices and maintain our commitment to personal development, even when progress seems slow. Cultivating diligence, passion for transformation and evolution. Diligence, or virya, in the Buddhist tradition, is the energy and constant effort we put into our spiritual practices and our search for truth. This is not mere mechanical work, but a deep motivating force, born of a genuine desire to improve and evolve. Practicing diligence helps us to remain committed to our spiritual path, to be consistent in meditation, introspection, and in applying Buddhist teachings to our daily lives. Diligence involves, first and foremost, protecting our minds from harmful tendencies and nurturing positive qualities. For example, it means being vigilant about our thoughts and actions and avoiding those habits that take us away from the spiritual path. It also involves a willingness to make sustained efforts to cultivate states of peace, compassion, patience, and wisdom. It is important to note that diligence is not the same as working hard or living in constant tension. Instead, it is a form of energy and joy that stems from passion for our spiritual purpose. Diligence means approaching our practice with enthusiasm, but also with respect for our limitations, so that we do not burn out or lose direction. It's a path of balance between effort and relaxation, which allows us to enjoy the spiritual journey without feeling burdened. Through diligence, We build an inner strength that allows us to stay on our path, even when obstacles or temptations arise that distract us. It teaches us to be persistent, to accept our imperfections, and to continue to grow despite challenges. By cultivating this quality, we open our hearts and minds to a life lived consciously, full of meaning and authenticity. Cultivating concentration, a clear, present mind. Concentration, known in Buddhism as samadhi, is the ability to focus our attention steadily and deeply on a single object. Whether it be our breath, a thought, an emotion, or even an external object, it is not only a tool for mental focus, but also a method for accessing deeper levels of understanding and inner peace. Concentration allows us to overcome scattered thoughts and mental restlessness, leading us to a place of deep stillness, where we can observe the nature of things with clarity. In the modern era, we are often assailed by stimuli from all sides: phone notifications, work obligations, and social demands. Our minds are scattered in all these directions, and this causes us to lose touch with the present. Through practice and discipline, Buddhism teaches us to cultivate a calm, focused mind, capable of remaining present regardless of circumstances. This helps us to experience each moment authentically, without being distracted or overwhelmed by mental or emotional noise. The practice of concentration can begin with meditation, where we train ourselves to focus our attention on our breath or on a specific point in our mind. As we refine our concentration, we become more present not only during meditation, but also in our daily activities. Whether we are at work, talking to a loved one, or going about our daily chores, concentration allows us to truly be there, fully engaged and connected. Concentration also gives us the opportunity to access a state of inner clarity that helps us see things as they are, without distortion. In this state of mental balance, we are able to perceive the truth beyond appearances and find creative and harmonious solutions to the problems we face. A focused mind is a quiet and clear mind, capable of reflecting reality with calm and profound precision. Cultivating wisdom, deep understanding of reality. Wisdom, or prajna, is the ultimate goal of Buddhist practice. It is the ability to perceive reality in its essence, to transcend illusion and ignorance, and to understand the interdependence and transitory nature of all things. Wisdom is not just theoretical knowledge, but a direct and profound realization that completely transforms the way we experience life. In Buddhism, wisdom is closely linked to the teaching of impermanence and suffering. It involves freeing ourselves from the idea that things are permanent, or that we can find lasting happiness in material possessions or external circumstances. Wisdom urges us to see beyond the surface, to understand that everything is constantly changing and that any excessive attachment inevitably leads to suffering. This quality cannot be acquired without dedicated practice, introspection, and a deep desire to know the truth. As we cultivate wisdom, we become more able to detach ourselves from negative emotions and thoughts and respond to situations in our lives with compassion and clarity. Wisdom also gives us the ability to see the connection between all beings, inspiring us to live in a way that respects and protects the harmony of life. Wisdom also guides us to explore our own nature and discover who we truly are, beyond the identities constructed by society or our own minds. Practicing wisdom means taking on our spiritual quest as an ongoing process of discovery and personal growth. As wisdom deepens, it begins to lead us to a state of inner freedom and profound peace, as we see that true happiness does not depend on external factors, but on how we relate to life and ourselves. By cultivating these spiritual laws in our lives, we move closer to a state of heightened awareness and balance. These Buddhist laws are not just abstract principles, but practical guidelines that guide us in our personal and spiritual evolution. By adopting them, we can live a more fulfilled, harmonious, and connected life. I invite you to make your own contribution to this journey, to explore, practice, and discover how each of these laws can bring a profound change in your life. I also invite you to subscribe to the channel for more interesting arguments. But let's continue. The practice of generosity, releasing attachments through giving. Generosity, or dana in the Buddhist tradition, is considered one of the fundamental virtues. It refers not only to the offering of material goods, but to the willingness to give from the heart of time, energy, knowledge, and compassion. Practicing generosity helps us to detach ourselves from attachment to things and cultivate an open heart, full of compassion and empathy. In Buddhism, generosity is not a simple altruistic act, but a profound process of inner transformation. When we give without expecting anything in return, we free ourselves from selfish desires and build an authentic connection with others. This practice helps us transcend the fear of lack or loss, making way for a sense of inner abundance and authentic joy. Generosity also trains our minds to be less focused on our own desires and needs and more oriented towards the common good. As we develop this quality, we learn to see the needs of others as being just as important as our own needs. This perspective helps us cultivate a state of well-being and harmony, not only in personal relationships, but also in the community. Generosity has the power to transform not only the giver, but also the receiver, creating an energy of communion and gratitude that spreads around. Spiritual generosity also means offering emotional support, love, and understanding. Sometimes the most valuable gift is our attentive presence and the openness to listen without judgment. In this way, we give of our inner energy, helping others feel accepted and valued. Thus, generosity becomes a way to open our hearts and contribute to the collective well-being, making our world a warmer and more welcoming place. Awareness of impermanence, accepting change as a universal law. Impermanence, known as anicca in the Buddhist tradition, is one of the three essential characteristics of existence, along with suffering and the lack of a permanent identity. This profound understanding of the constant change of all that exists helps us to free ourselves from attachments and suffering, cultivating a deep acceptance of reality. In our lives, we tend to become attached to objects, relationships, and pleasant experiences, wishing that they would last forever. But this desire is a constant source of suffering, because everything is subject to change and disappearance. Understanding impermanence teaches us to enjoy each moment authentically, without clinging to it or trying to prolong it. In practice, awareness of impermanence helps us overcome the fear of loss and change, as we understand that every ending is a beginning for a new experience. Accepting this profound truth helps us remain at peace in the face of life's inevitable changes, whether they are small things in everyday life or major events such as aging, losing a loved one, or going through difficult situations. Impermanence helps us see the value of each moment and appreciate what we have, even if it is fleeting. At the same time, this understanding frees us from unnecessary attachments, allowing us to live a life that is easier and freer from suffering. As we become aware of this universal law, we realize that true stability and happiness are not found outside, but in the way we relate to life. This profound acceptance of impermanence paves the way for a life lived with gratitude and serenity, being ready to meet every experience, whether pleasant or painful, with an open heart and a balanced mind. Cultivating patience, developing a calm heart and an open mind. Patience, or kshanti in Buddhism, is considered one of the most profound virtues, playing a crucial role in personal and spiritual development. Patience is not just the ability to tolerate difficult situations, but an attitude of openness and acceptance towards everything that life brings us. It involves a deep understanding that we cannot always control our circumstances, but we can control how we react to them. Cultivating patience helps us see obstacles as opportunities for inner growth. Instead of allowing ourselves to be consumed by frustration and anger, we can learn to remain calm and approach each challenge with wisdom. Patience is not simply passive resistance, but an active state of awareness in which we accept our own emotions and those of others without judgment or rejection. In meditation, patience becomes an essential tool for quieting our minds and freeing ourselves from the desire for quick results. It teaches us to be present with what is, without trying to force things to happen in a certain way. Thus, patience becomes a support for our spiritual practices, helping us to explore consciousness without pressure and to develop naturally. In everyday life, patience manifests itself in the ability to deal with challenges with calm and compassion. Whether we are facing a difficult situation at work or a personal conflict, patience helps us react with wisdom and maintain an attitude of understanding. By cultivating patience, we manage to build a more open heart and a more peaceful mind, capable of facing any challenge. Acceptance of interconnectedness, understanding the unity of all things. Buddhism teaches that all beings and things are interconnected in a vast and complex web of cause and effect, called pratitya samutpada, or interdependent origination. This means that nothing exists in isolation and everything is interdependent, suggesting that our actions, thoughts, and intentions have an impact on the entire universe. Understanding interconnectedness helps us to transcend our ego and see life in a broader light. Instead of perceiving ourselves as separate and isolated entities, we realize that we are part of a larger whole, that we are connected to other people and to nature. This inspires us to act with greater compassion and responsibility, knowing that every gesture and every word has consequences for the whole. Awareness of interconnectedness helps us overcome feelings of isolation and cultivate empathy and understanding for others. When we realize that the suffering of others affects us, we are motivated to contribute to the common good. Instead of seeking only personal benefits, we act to bring harmony and well-being to our community and the world. The practice of accepting interconnectedness can change the way we relate to life, giving us a new perspective on the purpose of our existence. Understanding that we are part of a whole, we become more responsible, more open, and more connected to the universal needs of all beings. This not only enriches our personal lives, but also encourages us to live with respect for everything around us, promoting harmony and peace both within ourselves and in the world around us. Practicing gratitude, looking at life through the lens of contentment. Gratitude is a powerful practice, rooted in the Buddhist tradition, that helps us see the value of each moment and enjoy everything we have. In a world where we are often caught up in endless desires and comparisons, gratitude provides an anchor, reminding us that we already have much more than we think. This doesn't just mean giving thanks for the big things, but also for every small gesture, every experience, and every opportunity to learn. Practicing gratitude transforms our perspective, helping us to view life with a state of genuine contentment. When we become aware of the blessings around us, whether they are material, spiritual, or emotional, the sense of lack begins to disappear, giving way to a profound sense of inner abundance. Gratitude is an antidote to greed and dissatisfaction, transforming every moment into an opportunity for joy. In Buddhism, gratitude reminds us of our connection to others and the interdependence of things. We understand that much of what we have is not only the result of our own efforts, but also of the support we receive from family, friends, and even strangers. Thus, we feel motivated to return this feeling of gratitude, helping and supporting our community and environment. This simple practice has profound effects on our mental and emotional state. Gratitude allows us to live with an open heart, appreciate every detail of life, and find meaning even in the most difficult moments. By cultivating gratitude, we strengthen our connection to what truly matters and become happier, more at peace, and more balanced. Release from attachment, embracing change and impermanence. One of the fundamental principles of Buddhism is the understanding of impermanence. Everything is constantly changing, nothing is static, and attachment to things, people, or situations can lead to suffering. When we cling to the desire for everything to remain the same, we inevitably face the pain of loss and disappointment. Release from attachment is not about rejecting or avoiding relationships or things that bring us joy, but rather cultivating a deep understanding of their ephemeral nature. When we learn to love without attachment, We free ourselves from the fear of loss and the suffering that comes with possessiveness. Instead of seeking to possess, we choose to live each experience with openness, appreciating each moment for what it is. In meditation, this practice of release helps us observe our thoughts and emotions without identifying with them. Just as clouds pass by without leaving a trace, our minds can experience various states without becoming attached to them. This allows us to remain centered and not be carried away by the tide of desires and aversions. Applying this principle in our daily lives gives us great inner freedom. Instead of suffering for what we have lost or for what we want, we become more flexible and open to change. We learn to see all experiences as a natural part of life and develop our ability to accept whatever comes or goes. Letting go of attachments is an essential step on the path to inner peace, helping us to live more easily, in harmony with the flow of life. Practicing compassion, opening our hearts to others. Compassion is an essential value in Buddhism, being seen as a form of applied wisdom, which urges us to be sensitive and attentive to the suffering of those around us. In this practice, we not only acknowledge the pain of others, but we also actively aim to alleviate it. Living with compassion means opening our hearts and acting from a place of genuine kindness, without expecting anything in return. In compassion meditation, we focus on cultivating positive wishes for others, wishing them happiness, health, and inner peace. This helps us dissolve the mental barriers that separate us from others, allowing us to see more clearly our human connections and feel empathy on a deeper level. Compassion is not a feeling of pity, but an expression of love and respect for all beings. Practicing compassion also helps us develop patience and tolerance for those around us, even those with whom we have conflicts. By opening ourselves to the pain and needs of others, we find the power to change our own reactions, becoming more understanding and at peace. Compassion not only helps others, it transforms us as well, leading us to a life lived in balance and harmony. Balancing the inner and outer, life finding harmony between contemplation and action. In our search for inner peace, many of us focus either exclusively on meditation and spiritual development, or only on success and achievements on the outer plane. In Buddhism, harmony between our inner and outer lives is essential for a balanced existence. Instead of choosing between introspection and action, we can learn to integrate them to create a healthy and fulfilling lifestyle. Balancing our inner and outer lives requires us to be present in both spheres, without neglecting our spiritual needs in the face of material pressures. We can practice meditation and self-knowledge, but also responsible action in the world, consciously involving ourselves in our daily activities. When we manage to achieve this balance, we can live a life full of meaning, in which our external work reflects the values and peace we have cultivated within. This integrative approach helps us face the challenges of modern life without losing touch with our deepest essence. Instead of just being in an endless search for external achievements or completely withdrawing into the inner world, we manage to find the harmony that allows us to be balanced, fulfilled and connected with both ourselves and the world around us. Cultivating inner peace, establishing a solid foundation of calm and understanding. Inner peace is the result of a consistent practice of meditation and reflection, which helps us maintain our balance regardless of external circumstances. In Buddhism, this deep calm is seen as a state of mental clarity and acceptance, which allows us to consciously respond to life's challenges, instead of reacting impulsively. To cultivate this peace, we must learn to observe our thoughts and emotions without becoming attached to them or judging them. As we develop greater awareness of our own mind, we are able to recognize and manage stress, anxiety, and fears more effectively. This practice gives us a broader perspective on life, allowing us to clearly see the context of each situation and act from a place of calm and discernment. Inner stillness is a solid foundation for compassion, wisdom, and love, as it frees us from the emotional turmoil that can lead us down the wrong paths. It is a state of deep peace, in which we can find the simple joy of being present and living. each moment consciously. By cultivating this stillness, we open ourselves to a meaningful life, lived in harmony with ourselves and those around us, thus becoming a source of inspiration and stability for all those we meet. Before I conclude, I want to thank you for being with me on this journey through the wisdom of Buddhism and exploring the concepts related to non-local consciousness. These ideas teach us to look beyond the boundaries of ordinary thinking and inspire us to live a life filled with more compassion, peace, and deep understanding. If this video has given you a new perspective or helped you connect with the deepest part of yourself, I invite you to give it a like and subscribe to stay up to date with new material. In this way, you can support my work and help create a community of people who want to explore and deepen such topics. I also encourage you to leave a comment below. Tell me what ideas inspired you or what other topics you would like to explore in future videos. Together, we can create a virtual space where we share wisdom and knowledge. Thank you again for being here. And don't forget to subscribe to continue exploring the paths of spirituality and consciousness together. See you soon.